Hello, good morning. Welcome to this InterConnect Open Call webinar overview and tips. Today we will be talking to you about this InterConnect Open Call, and we will be myself. I'm Ines Arias, I'm marketing lead at Funding Box. We also have with us David Rua, from who is the InterConnect coordinator at Inestec, and we also have Yolanda Moreno, project lead at Funding Box. Next slide, please. So just for you to know, this webinar will be recorded. Just for your information, all attendees' cameras and microphones are muted, but you are welcome always to post your questions on the chat box and to interact and leave also your comments during the entire webinar. So we will begin the recording now. Next slide. So today we will just give an overview and all the information you need about this InterConnect webinar. We will begin with general information about InterConnect, and then we will talk about this open call, the Interoperable-by-design Prototypes. We will follow with information about what happens if you get selected, the InterConnect Support Programme, information about how to apply, what you need to read, where to ask your questions, and then some more specific information about the technical insights. As I said before, you are always welcome during the entire webinar to just post your questions and comments. Next slide. Thank you. So InterConnect is a Horizon 2020 project. What we are trying to do here is to develop and demonstrate advanced solutions for connecting and converging digital homes and buildings with the electricity sector. This is a rather big project. We have 50 partners from 11 different European partners from 11 different countries. We have companies from the entire value chain, from R&D consultancy, manufacturers, ICT providers, DSOs, retailers, and also end users. Next slide. So InterConnect seeks to foster the digitalization of homes, buildings, and electricity grids based on an interconnect of things architecture. By including these digital technologies based on open standards, it will guarantee interoperability between equipment, systems, and privacy, cybersecurity of user data. The interconnect outputs, among others, are the creation of standardization recommendations to SDO, improved customer energy management, digital marketplace and interoperability toolkit, interoperable and replicable DSO interface, and business use cases, among others. So why these open calls? So what InterConnect does is we emphasize to contribute to the democratization of efficient energy management through a flexible and interoperable ecosystem where demand flexibility can be integrated with effective benefits. What we intend with this is to activate these SMEs. Activate SMEs through open call opportunities, expression of interest that we will develop later on, offer support on new solutions and services, and overall create an ecosystem for new players that will increase the impact and also the exploitation results of the project. So our mission is to benefit end users while also incorporating innovation from third parties. So the overview of the open calls of InterConnect are here in the table that you can see. We have two types of open calls, one on prototypes and two on demonstrators. The one open call that we have open at the moment is the Interoperable-by-design Prototypes open call. And later in 2023, we will have two open calls that will deal with interoperable by adoption demonstrators. These open calls, all of them, are addressing SMEs and startups. The scope changed a bit. With this open call that we have open at the moment, what we intend with this scope is to develop and test novel interoperable application of services for smart homes and grids. In the later two open calls about demonstrators, what we intend is to adapt and test these non-native interoperable applications and services by running small demonstrators. The number of selected calls are the same for the three open calls. This will be 14, and there is a variation on the funding and on the duration of the support. So this open call that we have open at the moment, this information we will go in depth later on, but the funding is up to 150,000 euros, and the duration of the support is up to 7 months. For the next two open calls, the funding will be up to 50,000 euros, and the duration of the support would be up to 4 months. Apart from the open calls, we will also have an expression of interest for associated pilots. So here we can see just the overview in terms of time. So now we have opened these prototypes of open call. Then around September this year, we will have the expression of interest to select the associated pilots. And then at the beginning of 2023 and mid 2023, we will have those open calls that are related to demonstrators. So this is the InterConnect in a nutshell. Now I would like to give the floor to my colleague Yolanda, who will go in depth this open call. Thank you.
Thank you, Ines. So, well, now we will focus on the first open call. This Interoperable-by-design Prototypes open call was open last 23rd of May and will be closed on Tuesday, 26th of July at 5 p.m. Brussels time. In this open call, we aim to select 14 bottom-up projects that will bring innovation to the InterConnect project. Who are we looking for? Well, first, from the legal side, we are looking for single, individual, small and medium enterprises, that includes startups for sure, that are legally established in the member states of the European Union, its overseas countries, associated countries to Horizon 2020, or United Kingdom or Northern Ireland. Okay. Then from the technical side, we have other criteria. First, the proposal should address the use of the interoperability framework in the prototype development, and also should address the implementation and integration of applications within one of the 7 project pilots. The technological readiness level should be between 5 and 7. As the technology supported by the InterConnect program should reach TRL8, the proposal should prove that they have this minimum level of 5 to 7 to reach the goal of 8 at the end of the program, okay? And then, of course, the proposal should be within the scope and address the challenges defined by the consortium that will be explained later. But then here we have an example of one project that could be selected to be part of the InterConnect program. For example, a startup specialized in interoperable solutions submits a proposal to the Prototypes open call. This proposal will develop a new application for managing EV charging for supermarket customers, so they can offer new deals for electrical mobility. For example, offer EV charging minutes if the customers spend more than 20 euros in the supermarket. And this proposal should meet all the previous requirements. So it should be an SME, be within the scope, will make use of the InterConnect interoperability framework, will test user acceptance in at least one of the project pilots. The initial TRL should be between 5 and 7. The proposal will be written in English, and the application will be submitted through the system and always before the deadline. Okay. Now, if David is willing, he can explain better what are the challenges that the project is proposing to solve. David?
Okay, so good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for the explanations we had from our colleagues from Funding Box. So as already explained, the project is based on interoperability in two domains specifically, which is the smart building domain or the building domain, which includes residential and non-residential buildings, and also the grid side, which also includes service providers, DSOs, and other entities that cooperate in tying together interoperability in a cross-sector manner from buildings to the grids and backwards. So what we need to explain a bit further what was already said has to do with the technical side. So in the next slide, we have a representation on the architecture of the platforms that we have developed. So InterConnect has developed a set of tools, and this is an important topic because these tools were developed to become to allow different services and related platforms to become interoperable. So we are departing from a set of definitions that allow these systems and these platforms to become interoperable. With the first definition that probably many of those participating here need to be aware, if they're not already, is SAREF, which is an ontology that allows us to develop this interoperability concept based on the exchange of information at the semantic level. And I'll explain a bit better what this is about, although at all times you have plenty of documentation in the project available regarding not only what was achieved so far, but also the contributions that are being made. With that said, SAREF is the grounds that we're using here to provide this interoperability framework between the services and platforms. And what we have is a set of tools, as you will see in a while, completely compatible with the existing and reference architectures that we find in many of the EU related scopes on data exchange, data definitions at the EU level. So we have this architecture that basically allows different platforms to connect with each other with an adapter. And this means that these platforms can come from different providers or from the same provider. So the way we have implemented is completely agnostic to whichever is the provider. We're focusing on the service and what the service means and who needs to be interacted there. But basically, with these adapters, which is something that the manufacturers and the tech providers need to do to reach out this interoperability framework or interoperability, this interoperability layer that we have between the different systems, we then have different ways of representing assets, of representing elements that we have and we want to exchange the same way, which facilitates a lot, as you will see, in the exchange of information between the different platforms, and also does provide a set of characteristics which are also interesting for the business perspective, but a bit more in a while. This means that we are fully capable of providing a service store that's instantiated. So this is part of a set of tools that compose what we call the semantic interoperability framework that I'll mention in a while. But basically, just to let you know that all of these tools that we have been developing are accessible in a public place. So we have this completely posted in public repositories for you to use. Suffice to say that all of this implementation that you have seen here with a service store, a marketplace, and even the interoperability layer that you see there are part of this tool that we are making available for everyone to use, and we're actually using ourselves in our own pilots and allowing others to use them also and to develop further. So the InterConnect project is not closed as a project, so it's an open project, still growing as we step forward. And these open calls are also an opportunity for others to use what we have developed, but also to come back with their own developments, following the same approach and the same trends laid in notions such as SAREF. So SAREF is sponsored by Etsy, and this is again our departing ground here. To mention very quickly that this interoperability, it's based on ontologies, graph patterns, and end-to-end entities, but this is completely in line with the FileWare, GaiaX, and even the data spaces that we see in the different designations at the EU level, and of course fully compatible with the existing standards underneath. So given that we are focused here on the service plane, on the data plane, this is where the added value of semantics exists and where we are keen on promoting this. So to exemplify a bit better what does this mean, in the next slide we have a comparison between what it is interoperable and what it is not to be semantically interoperable, and what's the gain to have. So let's imagine that you have a plethora of services and service providers interacting with each other towards a management system within a household. Let's say that for the use of flexibility, which is one of the several use cases that we have defined in the project, to take advantage of assets that are within buildings, associated with the building energy management system, which is at the centerpiece there, the element there. So if we adopt semantic interoperability, what it means that we have a knowledge base established for different interactions that we have in interoperability framework for providers of white goods like smart appliances, EV chargers, service-based approaches towards energy optimization, the ability to set optimal plan for the allocation of the assets inside the household. So this allows us to join together the domain in this interoperability framework altogether. This means that what you can easily do here is, with a semantic plane defined, you can easily add other elements like the ones we are seeking to have with the cascaded funding to the existing pools here. So if you see on the right hand side with the green checks, you see that, for instance, if you want to add yet another provider, or if you want to add yet another asset, the semantic interoperability allows us to do that without actually having to dive into too technical aspects related, for instance, with the definition of APIs. The adapters that I mentioned a while ago are the pieces here that take into account this conversion between whichever is the APIs that the manufacturer or the service provider has, and translates them into the interoperability plane that I defined earlier. This is suffice to say that this allows not to have to digest into APIs and sub-APIs, and whenever something changes with the APIs, to go through the documentation of each of the manufacturers to make it work again. And this is also one of the main obstacles that we saw from the very beginning in the project. Is if we want to include more APIs, then we had to go through the difficulty and the time consuming that it entails, which is to go through the documentation to understand what the manufacturer has, if the manufacturer or the service provider has it well documented or well available. This part of the adapter allows the manufacturer still to keep some of the information that it's let's say protected information or trade secret information, and disclosing the necessary information through the adapter to the interoperability framework. And this actually allows for us to have on the right side this easy inclusion of new elements, and not to fall in the same loophole, which is whenever we wanted to include these service providers, we fail because we don't know how to include the API, or it takes too much time to get to know how to include the API. The same goes again from service providers to manufacturers. So the plane here to keep in mind is data, and this is what the InterConnect facilitates. So the whole process is reflected in the next slide, where we have where we have this idea of developing serif-centric interoperability services and representations of assets, to focus on ways to disseminate the knowledge that entails to exchange, to have different elements interconnecting with each other, and allow this semantic side to take care of this data exchange in a consistent and well-defined way. So this interconnection point that you see here on the green side from digital platform A and platform B, that's in blue, it's exactly what allows different providers to speak the same language, or to get understood the same way. To keep in mind, this is not yet another standard. This is the standard followed by ETSI based on SAREF that we are also expanding, and we are also counting on participants on this cascading calls to implement it further. But what you are able to do is to register new interoperable service that you have in your backyard, that you're already thinking of them, some of them which may be already almost interoperable, or that you have a high desire to make it interoperable, you can still, with this system, configure the level of security that you want to have exchanged back and forth the same way as you had it before. And we also have the ability to support this management of services to create or to provide grounds to the use case that we have at hand. So this is possible, or this becomes only possible with this interoperability front that we have in the project. So it's important that with this, we can then achieve what's laid in on the right side, which is then we have the ability to reason about the data that we exchange back and forth between the systems. We do have these interactions between the systems supported by knowledge exchange. So we're giving meaning to what are the representation of the assets in the systems. And in fact, we do provide a way of implementing this in a decentralized and scalable way. Why is this final point really important? Because all of the tools that we have on the project are tools that are instantiated in each of the pilots, in each of the systems. So we do not hold an infrastructure where all of the information goes through. That's not the case. We do provide the tools and the mechanisms to be instantiated in the existing systems and platforms that are part of this demonstration, these use cases that we want to show within the project, with the pilots that we have in the project, and also with the cascading. So ultimately, what we are delivering is, in fact, these digital platforms that are semantically interoperable. And this is a challenge, we know, but this is really something that we see as an added value for competitiveness in the market. So as was mentioned from Inez and also from Yolanda, our targets are companies that want to develop the new generation of services in an interoperable way. That's why we're looking for SMEs, startups, dynamic companies that have an interest in that, in making the next step towards interoperability. So to finalize my intervention, in the next slide we have what we expect to achieve with this. So we ourselves as a consortium are made of several partners, as laid out here, and we're scattered around 7 countries. So we have pilots in the Portuguese cluster, we have pilots also in Italian, Greek, French, Belgium, the Dutch, and also the German case. So with all of these 7, and this is publicly available information, we have different types of buildings, different types of interaction with service providers, where new products, new services can be brought in to be tested there with existing infrastructure. So the pilots themselves are becoming ready to implement all of this in the next months. So they will become also able to receive these new products, new services for validation. What we expect is to show that this integration of this service that we have brought in by the cascading participants to easily be integrated in existing platforms, as we are sure that it can happen with the semantic interoperability framework. And also to provide extended ways of validating the business case. By having more stakeholders, more partners, we create more comprehensive use cases, and we have different or improved ways to validate the use cases and the impact that it has on managing, for instance, flexibility from the building side to allow the energy to benefit, the grid side to benefit from the use of flexibility. So again, going back to the DNA of the project, we cross-link with these 2 domains, so energy on the demand side, and also ICT on the data exchange on the different planes. But ultimately, what moves us here is this new contributions that we are really keen on having. So we're also hoping to learn from the process of these newcomers, also to provide them with the necessary tools, and together with them, to leverage these new contributions also as outcomes for them from business perspective, and outcomes also from the project. As you will see later on, our support is it's wide, so it's interesting in the sense that our support covers several areas, not only technical, as I mentioned here, but I'll leave that to Yolanda and to Inez to talk about in a while. Just to close from my side, to say that all of this information is in a public plane. We have all of this published in public repositories that you can have access to. So all of the tools that you will need to start building up your technical case, the project provides a very sound start to it, but it's not exclusive and it's not the only one. So we urge even developers, integrators that will come to this cascading also to provide their developments to be included also in this repository, so we can actually show how others and other SMEs after the project they can still develop their own services, their own products using the same rationale and the same infrastructure that InterConnect had here. So without further ado, and already taking a bit of time, just say that all of this is public, and you can still also reach out to us to contact us in case of any doubt or any information that you need from our side. So this is the explanation from my side. I'll pass on the floor to my colleagues from Funding Box. So go ahead.
Thank you so much, David. So now, well, I will try to explain the InterConnect Support Program. As David said, it's not only the money, not only the technical, it's also the other things that the InterConnect project will do for the selected companies. The program will be a 7-month program, and the selected SMEs will receive up to 150,000 euros, but this will be split in 3 stages. The first stage, that will be a 1-month stage, will be to define the proof of concept, and at the end of this stage, the companies will receive 20,000 euros. Then the second stage, to develop the prototype and also to define the business plan, will be a 3-month stage, and at the end of this stage, the companies will receive 60,000 euros. And then at the third stage, the companies have to test the minimum viable products in market conditions, that is in the InterConnect pilots, and then they have to define the exploitation plan. And then at the end of this stage, they will receive 70,000 euros. The payment of each tranche depends on the approval by the mentoring and the selection committee of the related deliverables per milestone. These milestones, deliverables, KPIs, ethical recommendations, will be all defined at the beginning of the support program in an individual mentoring plan that will be created by the SMEs, the selected projects, and with the help of the mentors. Okay. There will be also business mentoring to ensure the proper implementation and success integration of all these applications. Okay. And then I would like to explain you how to apply to this open call. It's a very easy process. You just need to go to the open call website and click on the apply button. Okay, and then, well, here you have how to apply. Login or sign up. Maybe you have already applied to other open calls through our platform, so it's easy. Click on the apply button, start a new application, fill the application, submit, and just wait. Okay. Some tips for this. It's very important to submit your application before the deadline. Okay, the deadline is the 26th of July, Tuesday at 5 p.m. Brussels time. Only one proposal can be submitted per company. So, sorry, I don't know what's going on. Only one proposal can be submitted by company. Okay, so if you submit more than one, only the last one that you submit will be evaluated. You can always edit the application that you have submitted before the deadline, and you also can add contributors to the application, so you can have people in your company helping you to fill the application. Okay. We recommend highly to read first these related documents that you can find in the site. One is the guide for applicants. This guide will show you all the process and all the things you need to know. We have also a document with frequently asked questions where you can solve some of the doubts you can have. And also, it's important to read first the sub-grant agreement. this is a draft of the contract that the winners will sign with the consortium. So you can have an idea of what are the expectations for the support program, okay? When you click the Apply Now button and start a new application, you will find this application form, and you will need to find all the parts of it, okay? As you can see, in the top of the application, you have the button to add the contributors. So as I said before, you can have other people from your organization helping you fill in the application. When you are here, you only need to fill all the sections, and when all the sections are filled, you will the button with the app submit will appear, and you can submit. And as I said, you can still continue making some changes if you want before the deadline. Okay. Well, and then what happens when the open call is closed? Well, as you can see here, we have a long selection process ahead, okay? Right after closing the open call, we perform the eligibility check. This first evaluation is about verifying the basic requirements that I had explained in the first part of the presentation, okay? We need to see if the company is an SME, and is established in an eligible country, if the proposal is within the scope, if you said that you are going to use the interoperability framework, if the initial TRL is between 5 and 7, if the proposal is in English, and also if it has been submitted before the deadline. Okay. After the eligibility check, an email will be sent to all applicants informing them if their proposal is still in the process or if not, and if not, why not, okay? Then we will start with the external evaluation with two external and independent experts assessing each proposal. This will be happening in August this year, okay? You can find all the information and criteria about this evaluation in the guide for applicants that is linked in the web page, okay? After that, a ranking list will be elaborated, and all proposal obtaining a score above the threshold will move to the next stage. The next stage is the consensus meeting, where an evaluation committee will decide the list of applicants that move to the next stage. This decision will be based on the ranking obtained as a result of the external evaluation, but also you should bear in mind that even that normally the benchmark proposals are selected for the next stage, the evaluation committee may have reasons for objecting to the selection of a specific candidate. This can be like the alignment with the InterConnect goals and scope, the ability to achieve the strongest possible impact, the commercial competition, the existence of ethical concerns, or maybe the existence of potential conflict of interest, okay? So then, after the consensus meeting that will be happening in September, all the bottom-up projects will be informed again if they are invited to the jury day that will be organized in October. If your proposal had been selected during the consensus meeting, you will be invited to this jury day that could be, well, depends on the situation, will be online or on site. So if it is on site, there will be a mini grant to assist to the jury day, and the participants will be invited with time in advance to prepare everything, okay? In this jury day, you will have the opportunity to pitch your project in front of the InterConnect selection committee. And the selection committee will decide by majority of vote the list of finalists and also the reserve list that will be communicated to the European Commission, okay? And after that, we will start the process of formal check and the process of signing the agreement between the selected projects and the consortium. And well, this is all about evaluation. Here you can find a link to InterConnect community. Please join the community to be updated about the open call or to make questions in the help desk. But also if you want to be updated about the project, you have to know that everything, the news, the events, the project is participating, everything is published in this community. So we invite you to be part of it. You can network with maybe other startups like yours and meet people, and you know, this is all. Well, I don't know if you have any questions, please write them in the chat. If, well, Ines, I don't know if there are any questions already.
No, there are none.
No, if you want, I can just make a short introduction on how to fill the application form. As I said, you will go to the microsite. Here in the top part, you have like the read first documents. I have said you can see here the guide for applicants or the frequently asked questions and the sub-grant agreement. You have also the links to the website, community, help desk. And if you go to apply now, well, I have already applications, but you can start a new application here. And you only need to go filling the information that it asked here. So it's quite easy and straightforward. You can go back to application every time and fill everything you feel is saved. So even though if the application is not submit, please you remember to save and continue, and everything will be saved in this draft you have here. And then when the application is complete, you will have here the button to submit. Okay, so it's quite a straightforward process, but for sure, if you have any questions, we will be happy to answer them.
Okay, since we don't have any questions, it means that we were quite clear, or people are still digesting the content. Just to add to what Yolanda said before we close the session, to the fact that all of the information provided in the application should be as comprehensive as possible and highlight the added value of your application, which will be subject to, let's say, peer review, and also to comparative classification with other calls. So those that are the most promising ones, they will be the ones selected for funding. So please try and read all of the information you have from the project to be better prepared to present your case. If you have any questions, any points, all of the information is public, but still, I'm sure that some specific information may be lacking, or even with this presentation, that some questions may arise at a later stage. So not only should you follow this presentation and the video that will be posted online, but also to reach out to us and to get to know more details about the cascaded funding. And I'm sure that from the consortium, we'll have an answer to this. Our cultural funding box are leading this, but there are other questions more technically oriented, but we'll have also other partners participating in and also providing clarifications to this. So I think this is it. I think it's the end of the webinar. I don't know if there's any other point, Yolanda or Ines, from your side.
Not from my side.
If we don't have any other questions, we wouldn't want to keep people here more than necessary. So this was just one of the first events to disseminate the cascading and the open calls that we have in the project. And just to tell, we're looking forward to receiving your applications and to get to know more about the project and to be able to count on you in taking the results and the outreach of the project even farther than we have. So from my side, thank you very much for participating, and hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Have a nice day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.